Okay. So strong paired pellicles arises posterolaterally from each body near its upper border. Okay, superior vertebral notches are shallow and inferior are deep. The lamina are broad and short but do not overlap as much as those of thoracic vertebrae. The fifth spine is the smallest and its apex is often rounded and downtown. Okay, that means spinous process of the L5, right? And upper lumbar superior articular process are further apart than the inferior ones. That means upper articular process are further apart than the inferior ones. Okay, inferior articular process. So this is the gap between these things. Okay, these articular surfaces and these articular surfaces. But the difference is the slightest in the fourth and negligible in the fifth. Right? You see. Uh, See, the gap in the superior articular surface is more than the gap in the inferior articular surfaces, right? But in the L4 and L5, these are negligible, right? The articular facets are reciprocally concave, superior and convex inferior, which allows flexion, extension, lateral bending, and some degree of rotation. There are such differences in the angle of inclination and depth of the curvature of the articular facet. So, in the male and female, there will be different angles. The facets are sometimes asymmetrical, right? The transverse processes, except the fifth, are anteroposteriorly compressed and project posterolaterally. Okay, the transverse process. Okay, project posterolaterally. The lower border of the fifth transverse process is angulated. Okay, lower border of the fifth. Lower border of the transverse process of the L5 is angulated, passes laterally and then superolaterally to a blunt tip. The whole process presents a greater upward inclination than the fourth. Okay, the angle of the inferior border may represent the tip of the costal element and the lateral end of the true transverse process. The lumbar transverse process increase in length from L1 to L5, L3, and then shorten. You see, this is the L1, 2, 3, 4, 5. L5 body is very massive. Okay, these are the transverse process, right? So the transverse process has some upward inclination, right? That is what we are. Then the fourth one. This has some upward inclination. On average, okay, that is the end of the lumbar vertebrae. Then we are coming to the some applied aspects. On average, the adult spinal cord ends at the level of the middle third of the body of the first lumbar vertebrae. Okay, okay, the spinal cord ends at the L1, middle of the body of the L1, which means that the first lumbar vertebral foramen usually contains the conus medullaris. The cord may terminate above or below this level. Okay, cord may terminate above or below this level. The lower lumbar vertebral foramina contain the cauda equina and spinal meninges. During the development, the vertebral column grows much faster than the spinal cord. As a result, spinal cord does not extend the entire length of the vertebral column. So, because of the uh, growth disparity between the vertebral column and spinal cord ends at L1, L2, right? You see, this is the spinal cord. It ends at L1, L2, right? This is L1, L2. So this cone-like structure is called as conus medullaris. Okay. After L1, there is all the spinal nerves are like this. Okay, and resembling a horse of sorry tail of okay, tail of horse. So called as Cauda equina. Okay, Cauda means tail, equine means horse. So the whole length of the vertebral canal may not be filled by the whole of the spinal cord because spinal cord ends at L1, L2 level. Okay, where it forms a cone-like structure. Okay, because of the lumbar bulging. Okay, lumbar enlargement as the cervical enlargement. Okay, this is called as conus medullaris, and the remaining vertebral column contains cauda equina. Posterior spaces between vertebral arches. In most regions of the vertebral column, the lamina and spinous process, okay, adjacent vertebra overlap to form a reasonably complete bony dorsal wall for the vertebral canal. Okay. However, in the lumbar region, large gaps exist between the posterior components of the adjacent there is gaps in lumbar vertebrae. Okay, these gap between adjacent lamina and spinous process become increasingly wide from L1 to L5. Space can be widened further by flexion of the vertebral column. That means if we bend forward, the space will be again widened again. These gaps allow relatively easy access to the vertebral canal for clinical procedures like lumbar puncture or epidural. Epidural. You see the spinous process and lamina of the thoracic. Okay, this is thoracic vertebra forms a complete posterior bony wall. Okay, whereas there is some gap. Okay, it can be you see there is the gap. This is the gap which can be further widened by the flexion of the spine. Okay, you see there is no gap here in thoracic vertebra. There is some gap here, right? Okay, you see there is no gap, right? There is gap, 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 gap. So you see lumbar spinal puncture for spinal anesthesia, lumbar injection for epidural anesthesia, right? And so if you want to extract CSF for CSF analysis, okay, you have to do lumbar puncture, right? So this is the space, okay? This can be the spinal cord and the epidural space can be easily accessed through these lumbar gaps in the posterior bony wall of the lumbar vertebra. Okay, this is table. Okay, body is massive, kidney shaped. From superior vertebral foramen is triangular. Transverse processes are long and slender. Accessory process on the posterior surface of the base of each transverse. Articular process. Superior articular facet direction posteromedially, and there is mammillary process. Spinous process. Short, sturdy, thick, broad, and rectangular. You see, and again these lumbar vertebral bodies are divided by adjacent discs. Okay, these are called as intervertebral discs, right? Okay, this is the vertebral foramina. Spinal nerve is emerging from the intervertebral foramina. This is the intervertebral disc. Okay, which gives the ability to the vertebral column to absorb shocks. Okay, spinal intervertebral disc acts as a shock absorber, right? And it has two parts. Okay, annulus fibrosus, so outer annulus fibrosus and inner nucleus pulposus. Okay, nucleus pulposus is okay, and there is annulus fibrosus. So due to shearing, tearing, okay, and due to accidents, trauma, okay, to the vertebral column, okay, or due to the shocks, there will be tears, okay. Whenever there appears a tear in annulus fibrosus, okay, these nucleus pulposus, okay, which is semi solid, okay, will be like this, okay. It comes to the through the gap, okay. So that is called as disc herniation, okay. Disc herniation, okay. Hernia of the disc, okay, nothing but the nucleus pulposus coming through the tear in the annulus fibrosus, right. So when this occurs, this is the intervertebral foramina where spinal nerves are emerging. So when this nucleus pulposus herniates, okay, this exerts pressure on spinal nerves, okay, exerts pressure on spinal nerves. So that is why the patient develops pain, tingling, and numbness, okay. This is the reason uh, why people have sciatica, okay. Sciatica, this is the gross pathology of sciatic pain, okay. You see, this is the intervertebral disc, right. If this herniates into this, this is the vertebral canal, and this is the intervertebral foramina where spinal nerve emerges, okay. You see, this is central. There are variations in the herniation, okay. The nucleus pulposus directly goes into the vertebral foramen, okay. This is called as central herniation. You see, central herniation. In the MRI, this will be like this, okay. Herniated disc, okay. They observe clearly, okay. This will be, this is the herniated disc. And again there is posterolateral herniation. You see, this is normal, but disc is herniated through this, okay. Posterolateral, because this is the anterior and this is the posterior. Body is always anterior. So this appears, okay, posterior view. Vertebral arches are removed. If we remove the vertebral arches, right, this herniated disc will be like this, posterolateral herniation. So what you have to do is, surgically you can't repair a uh, herniated disc. So what you will do, you will reduce the pressure exerted by the herniated disc, okay. So you have to remove herniated disc along with lamina, okay. So it is called as laminectomy, and removal of disc is called as discectomy. You see, these are the spinal nerves, okay. If it protrudes, if it protrudes like this, this will exert pressure on spinal nerves, right. So you can remove this, okay, lamina up to this, okay, side 1 and side 2, or also you can remove along with pedicles. The whole vertebral arch can be removed, okay. So that is called as laminectomy, okay, to relieve the uh, protrusion of intervertebral disc. It is called as PIVD, okay. And coming to the another thing, that is spina bifida. Spina bifida. Spina bifida means sorry, there is inability, okay, failure of the closure of the failure of the merging of the, this is the normal vertebra, this is spina bifida vertebra. That means both sides of the vertebral arch are not fused, okay, not fused completely, okay, both sides. So what will happen? There will be bony defect. Okay, there will be bony defect in the vertebral column, through which sometimes there will be protrusion of meninges. It is called as meningocele. If along with meninges, spinal cord also protrudes to the outer surface, it is called as myelomeningocele, right? And this is the spina bifida is two types, right? Spina bifida occulta. Okay, this is the first type, and second type is this one, where meninges and cord also protrudes. Okay, usually this is a birth defect. Okay, spina bifida. And recently, vertebral plasty is a relatively new technique in which the body of a vertebra can be filled with bone cement. Okay, the whole vertebra will be filled with bone cement. You see, typically methyl methacrylate. Indications for the technique includes vertebral body collapse and pain from the vertebral body. Okay, if the vertebral body is collapsed as a result of a wedge fracture or a metastatic cancer, right? Secondary to tumor infiltration. The procedure is most commonly performed for osteoporotic wedge fractures, for osteoporosis also. You see, radiograph of lumbar region of the vertebral column demonstrating three intrapedicular needles, all of which have been placed in the middle of the vertebral bodies. Right? These are the needles. These are the vertebral bodies. Okay. The highly density material is radiopaque bone cement. This is the bone cement, black one, which has been injected as a liquid that will harden. Okay, this is injected as a liquid, but this will harden. Okay, this is called as vertebroplasty. Coming to the scoliosis, scoliosis is abnormal lateral curvature of the vertebral column. Abnormal lateral curvature of the vertebral column. This is the, you see, radiograph and astroposterior CT. Okay, this is X-ray. This is CT of scoliosis. Right. That is regarding the general features of vertebral column, right? Vertebrae, and the specific features of lumbar vertebrae along with its applied anatomy. Okay, hope you all understand it well. Okay, if you have any doubts, let me know.